Imagine London in the early 1800s. Not the bustling, vibrant city we know today, but a dark, sprawling, and deadly place. The air is thick with the smoke from countless coal fires, and the streets. Well, the streets are flowing with filth, human waste, animal dung, and refuse from slaughterhouses and factories all mixed together in open sewers, eventually finding their way into the River Thames, the city's primary source of drinking water. This was Victorian London, arguably the deadliest city on earth. Life expectancy in the poorest areas was shockingly low, sometimes barely reaching the early 20s. Diseases like typhoid, typhus, and the terrifying newcomer, cholera, swept through the population in devastating waves. Thousands would die in a matter of weeks. It seemed like an unstoppable, biblical, but it wasn't. And the man who would dedicate his life to fighting this filth, to literally cleaning up London, and in doing so, creating the blueprint for the modern city, was a resident of a place you might know, Brockley. His name was Sir Edwin Chadwick. Now, when you walk through the leafy streets of Brockley today, past landmarks like the Brockley Jack Pub or the Rivoli Ballroom, it's hard to imagine that one of its most influential residents was a man who waded metaphorically through the worst muck of the 19th century. Chadwick lived and died right here in Brockley, and his story is one of incredible vision, relentless determination, and a fair bit of controversy. He wasn't a doctor, an engineer, or a politician in the traditional sense. He was a social reformer, a civil servant with a background in law. But what he had was a brilliant, analytical mind and an absolute refusal to accept the status quo. He saw the suffering, the poverty, and the disease not as a moral failing of the poor, but as a systemic problem that could be solved with science, data, and bold infrastructure. Chadwick was born in 1800 near Manchester, the heart of the Industrial Revolution. He saw firsthand the squalor that came with rapid, unplanned urban growth. His own grandfather had lived to be 103, a stark contrast to the short, brutal lives of the factory workers around him. This personal connection likely fueled his obsession with public health. He moved to London to pursue law, but his true calling emerged when he began working with the Poor Law Commission. Here, he started connecting the dots in a way no one else had. He meticulously gathered data, interviewing doctors, officials, and the poor themselves. He wasn't just describing the problem, he was quantifying it. He proved, with cold, hard statistics, that sickness wasn't just a human tragedy, it was an economic disaster. A sick workforce couldn't work. Widows and orphans became a burden on the state. Chadwick argued that it was cheaper to prevent disease than to deal with its consequences. His breakthrough came with his monumental 1842 report, The Sanitary Condition of the Laboring Population of Great Britain. This was a bombshell. It laid bare the horrifying link between poor sanitation, contaminated water, and disease. He proposed a radical solution, a complete overhaul of the city's infrastructure. He envisioned a circulatory system for the city, fresh, clean water piped into every home, and a network of underground egg-shaped sewer pipes to carry waste away from the population. He called it the venous and arterial system. At the time, this was revolutionary. Most houses had no running water, and waste was collected in overflowing cesspools in basements or backyards, which often leaked into the local wells. Chadwick's idea was to use the very water that cleaned the people to clean the city, flushing the waste away constantly and efficiently. But Chadwick was not a man who made friends easily. He was described as cold, arrogant, and utterly convinced of his own correctness. He bulldozed through opposition, alienating doctors who clung to the old miasma theory, the idea that disease was spread by bad smells, not contaminated water. He clashed with engineers who questioned his designs and with the powerful private water companies who saw his plans for public control as a threat to their profits. He was also criticized for his connection to the deeply unpopular New Poor Law, which created the workhouse system. Many saw his sanitary reforms as another form of social control, an intrusion by a faceless state into the lives of the poor. The press caricatured him as a meddling bureaucrat. His famous motto was that people should be washed, filtered, and irrigated, which to his critics sounded like he was talking about crops, not human beings. The turning point came with the Great Stink of 1858. A summer heatwave baked the sewage-filled Thames, releasing an overpowering stench that enveloped the entire city. The smell was so bad that Parliament had 2 hang curtains soaked in chloride of lime over its windows just to be able to function. The crisis finally forced the politicians' hands. Chadwick's ideas, once seen as radical, were now seen as essential. Although he himself had been pushed out of public office by this point due to his difficult personality, his blueprint was largely adopted. The great engineer Yusuf Pazaljet was tasked with building London's new sewer system, a monumental feat of Victorian engineering that is still in use today. It was a direct result of Chadwick's relentless campaigning and detailed reports. The impact was immediate and profound. Cholera outbreaks, which had once killed tens of thousands, virtually disappeared from London. Life expectancy began to climb. Chadwick's principles of public health, clean water, sanitation, and a centralized public authority to manage it became the model for cities not just across Britain, but around the world. New York, Paris, Hamburg. They all followed London's lead. Edwin Chadwick had effectively invented the modern field of public health. He proved that a city's design could determine the health and well-being of its citizens. He championed the idea that a government's primary responsibility is to protect its people from preventable harm. He spent his later years in his house in Brockley, continuing to write and campaign on various issues, from education to criminal justice reform. He died in 1890 and is buried in Mortlake. Today, his legacy is all around us, often invisible. It's in the clean water that comes from our taps, the toilets that flush our waste away, and the very fact that we can live together in massive, dense cities without succumbing to the diseases that plagued our ancestors. Sir Edwin Chadwick was a difficult, often disliked man. But he was a visionary, a man who saw a problem of immense scale and dedicated his life to solving it. And that crusading, world-changing spirit once called the quiet neighborhood of Brockley home. So next time you're in the area, maybe raise a glass to the stubborn reformer who helped make our modern world possible. Thanks for watching. If you found this journey into London's grimy past interesting, please give this video a like and subscribe for more hidden histories. See you next time.